It is 711 AD. The Visigothic kingdom ruled most of what is now Spain and Portugal. On the surface, it appeared to be a powerful state. Its kings controlled vast territories, the nobility held immense wealth, and the church wielded enormous influence. But beneath that strength lay deep instability. Powerful nobles competed for influence, loyalty to the crown was fragile, and political rivalries weakened the kingdom from within. When King Witiza died, a succession dispute divided the ruling elite. Instead of preparing for external threats, the kingdom became consumed by its own internal struggle. History has shown that civilizations often collapse not because their enemies suddenly become stronger, but because they become weaker from within. While the Visigoths fought among themselves, a new power was transforming the world beyond the Strait of Gibraltar. Less than a century earlier, Islam had emerged in the Arabian Peninsula. In an astonishingly short time, Muslim armies expanded across Syria, Egypt, Persia, and North Africa, creating one of history's fastest-growing empires. By the year 711, they stood on the northern coast of Africa, separated from Europe by only a narrow stretch of water. That year, a Berber general named Tariq ibn Ziyad led an army of roughly 7,000 men across the Strait of Gibraltar. The towering rock where they landed would later become known as Gibraltar, derived from the Arabic Jabal Tariq, meaning the mountain of Tariq. A famous tradition claims Tariq ordered his ships burned and told his soldiers, "Behind you is the sea. Before you is the enemy. There is no escape except through victory." Whether the story is literal history or later legend, it captured the determination of an army that had no intention of retreating. King Roderick, the Visigothic ruler, quickly marched south to confront the invaders. The two armies met near the Guadalete River. During the battle, the Visigothic army fell apart. Contemporary and later sources indicate that internal divisions and defections among parts of the Visigothic nobility contributed significantly to the defeat. King Roderick disappeared after the battle, and his fate remains unknown. The consequences were extraordinary. Within months, major cities including Córdoba, Toledo, Seville, and Merida came under Muslim control. Some surrendered through negotiation, while others were taken by force. Within only a few years, nearly all of the Iberian Peninsula had become part of the new Islamic territory. The conquerors called it Al-Andalus. What followed was not merely military occupation. Al-Andalus developed into one of medieval Europe's most advanced societies. Agriculture improved through sophisticated irrigation systems. Trade linked Iberia with North Africa and the wider Mediterranean. Scholars made important contributions to medicine, astronomy, mathematics, philosophy, and engineering. At the heart of this civilization stood Córdoba, which grew into one of Europe's largest and wealthiest cities. Its libraries, schools, and scholars became renowned throughout the medieval world, preserving and expanding knowledge that would later influence the European Renaissance. It appeared that Muslim rule over Iberia had become permanent, but far to the north, hidden among the rugged mountains of Asturias, a small group of survivors refused to surrender. Their resistance seemed insignificant against the power of Al-Andalus. Yet from those isolated mountains would emerge a kingdom whose struggle would continue for nearly 781 years, shaping the history of Spain forever. By the early 8th century, the Muslim conquest of the Iberian Peninsula seemed complete. Within a few years of crossing the Strait of Gibraltar in 711, Muslim forces had conquered nearly all of what is now Spain and Portugal. The Visigothic kingdom had collapsed, Toledo had fallen, and Al-Andalus appeared destined to rule the peninsula indefinitely. But in the far north, the rugged Cantabrian mountains told a different story. Their steep valleys and narrow passes provided a natural refuge for those who refused to submit. Among them was Pelayo, a nobleman who emerged as the leader of a growing Christian resistance. Under his leadership, the Kingdom of Asturias became the first independent Christian kingdom to survive the Muslim conquest. Around 722, Muslim authorities launched an expedition to crush this rebellion. The two forces met near Covadonga. Although the Battle of Covadonga was small by medieval standards, its impact was enormous. The Asturian victory proved that Muslim rule over Iberia was not unchallenged. More importantly, it gave the resistance legitimacy and hope. The Kingdom of Asturias survived, becoming the foundation upon which future Christian kingdoms would be built. Pelayo did not live to see the end of the struggle he had begun, but the kingdom he established endured. His successors strengthened their defenses, expanded cautiously, and preserved an independent Christian presence in northern Iberia. For centuries, neither side possessed the strength to destroy the other. The frontier became a shifting border where castles rose and fell, raids crossed the mountains, and periods of warfare were interrupted by years of uneasy peace. The Reconquista was never a single continuous war, but a long process shaped by military campaigns, diplomacy, and changing political ambitions. The conflict was also far more complex than a simple struggle between Christians and Muslims. Christian rulers frequently fought one another for territory, while Muslim leaders competed among themselves for power. At times, Christian kings allied with Muslim rulers against rival Christian kingdoms, and Muslim rulers sought Christian allies in their own conflicts. Political survival often mattered as much as religious identity. Meanwhile, Al-Andalus entered its golden age. Its cities flourished through trade and agriculture, while advances in medicine, mathematics, astronomy, philosophy, and engineering made it one of the most advanced societies in medieval Europe. At its heart stood Córdoba, one of Europe's largest and wealthiest cities, renowned for its paved streets, public baths, bustling markets, and remarkable libraries. To anyone observing the peninsula during the 10th century, the future seemed certain. The Christian kingdoms remained small, divided, and comparatively poor. Al-Andalus stood as the dominant power in Western Europe. Yet history has a habit of overturning expectations. The strength of Al-Andalus depended on its unity. And when that unity began to fracture, the balance of power across Iberia would shift for the first time in generations, opening the door to a new chapter in the 781-year struggle. For nearly 3 centuries after the Muslim conquest, Al-Andalus stood as one of the most powerful and sophisticated states in Europe. Its greatest moment came in 929, when Abd al-Rahman III declared himself Caliph of Córdoba. No longer a distant province of the Islamic world, Al-Andalus became the center of an independent caliphate, rivaling the great Islamic powers of the Middle East. Under Abd al-Rahman III and his son Al-Hakam II, Córdoba entered a golden age. It grew into one of Europe's largest and wealthiest cities, renowned for its bustling markets, paved streets, public baths, and magnificent architecture. Its libraries and scholars attracted visitors from across the Mediterranean, while advances in medicine, astronomy, mathematics, and philosophy made Al-Andalus a leading center of learning. Trade connected Iberia with North Africa and the Middle East, bringing wealth that strengthened both its economy and military. Meanwhile, the Christian kingdoms in the north remained divided. The kingdoms of Leon, Navarre, and the emerging realms of Castile and Aragon often fought among themselves. Kings battled rivals, nobles rebelled, and civil wars were as common as campaigns against Al-Andalus. There was no united Christian front and no coordinated effort to reclaim the peninsula. For much of the 10th century, the balance of power clearly favored the Caliphate of Córdoba. Then a single man came to dominate the political and military landscape. His name was Almanzor. Though never caliph himself, Almanzor became the most powerful figure in Al-Andalus. A gifted military commander, he launched almost yearly campaigns against the Christian kingdoms, devastating towns, destroying fortresses, and preventing his northern rivals from growing strong. In 997, he carried out his most famous expedition, capturing Santiago de Compostela, one of Christianity's holiest pilgrimage sites. The city's great church was sacked, and according to historical accounts, its bells were taken to Córdoba as symbols of victory. The campaign demonstrated the continued strength of Al-Andalus and left the Christian kingdoms firmly on the defensive. But even the strongest states can depend too heavily on one individual. When Almanzor died in 1002, the unity he had maintained quickly unraveled. Rival factions competed for power, political instability spread, and within a generation the once mighty caliphate of Córdoba collapsed. By 1031, it had officially dissolved. In its place emerged dozens of smaller independent Muslim states, known as the Taifas. Each ruled its own territory, maintained its own army, and pursued its own interests. Rather than cooperating, many fought one another, weakening Muslim political unity across Iberia. For the Christian kingdoms, this changed everything. Instead of facing a single powerful enemy, they now confronted many smaller rivals. Some Taifa rulers even paid annual tributes, known as parias, to Christian kings in exchange for military protection against neighboring Muslim states. This wealth financed stronger armies, new castles, and greater royal authority, unintentionally strengthening the kingdoms that would eventually conquer them. Even then, the conflict remained complex. Christian kings continued fighting each other, while Muslim rulers still formed alliances with Christian monarchs whenever it served their interests. Political survival often mattered more than religious identity, yet the balance of power had undeniably shifted. For the first time since 711, the Muslim states were responding to events rather than directing them. The Christian kingdoms sensed that history was beginning to turn in their favor. All they needed was a leader capable of seizing the opportunity. That leader would emerge in the second half of the 11th century. His name was El Cid. By the late 11th century, the balance of power in Iberia was beginning to shift. The mighty caliphate of Córdoba had collapsed, leaving behind dozens of smaller Muslim states known as the Taifas. Though wealthy and cultured, they were politically divided, often competing with one another and even hiring Christian knights or paying tribute to Christian kings. Among those knights was Rodrigo Diaz de Vivar, better known as El Cid. Born around 1043 in Castile, Rodrigo first served King Sancho II before entering the service of Alfonso VI. After being exiled in 1081, he fought for the Muslim Taifa of Zaragoza, leading armies against both Christian and Muslim rivals. His career reflected the true nature of the Reconquista, an age in which political alliances often mattered more than religious identity. His military brilliance earned him the title El Cid, derived from the Arabic Al-Sayyid, meaning the Lord. In 1085, King Alfonso VI captured Toledo, the former Visigothic capital. It was the greatest Christian victory since the Muslim conquest of 711 and signaled that the frontier was beginning to move south. Alarmed, several Taifa rulers appealed to the Almoravids, a powerful Berber dynasty from North Africa. Led by Yusuf ibn Tashfin, they crossed into Iberia in 1086 and defeated Alfonso VI at the Battle of Sagrajas, halting the Christian advance. Within a few years, the Almoravids had absorbed most of the Taifa kingdoms, restoring Muslim unity. Meanwhile, El Cid carved out his own legacy. In 1094, he captured Valencia and ruled the city until his death in 1099, governing both Christians and Muslims. Though his kingdom did not survive, his reputation did, and he became Spain's greatest medieval hero. But the war was far from over. The Almoravids would eventually decline, replaced by the Almohads, another powerful North African dynasty. Their arrival set the stage for one of the most decisive battles in the Reconquista. Its name was Las Navas de Tolosa, the battle that would change the course of the 781-year war forever. By the early 13th century, the Reconquista had already lasted more than 500 years. The Almohad Caliphate ruled much of Al-Andalus, determined to stop the Christian advance. In 1212, the turning point finally came. Recognizing the growing threat, King Alfonso VIII of Castile united with King Peter II of Aragon and King Sancho VII of Navarre. Joined by knights from across Christian Europe, their armies marched south to confront the Almohads at the Battle of Las Navas de Tolosa. On July 16, 1212, the two sides clashed in one of the most decisive battles in Spanish history. After hours of fierce fighting, Christian forces broke through the Almohad defenses and routed the Caliph's army. The defeat shattered Almohad power in Iberia and marked the beginning of the end for Muslim political dominance on the peninsula. The Christian kingdoms quickly seized the advantage. In 1236, King Ferdinand III captured Córdoba, the former capital of the Umayyad Caliphate. 12 years later, in 1248, he conquered Seville, one of the richest cities in Al-Andalus. Only one Muslim kingdom remained. Granada survived behind the mountains of southern Spain, protected by strong fortifications and sustained through tribute paid to the Kingdom of Castile. For more than 2 centuries, it remained a prosperous center of trade, culture, and architecture, crowned by the magnificent Alhambra. But its survival would not last forever. In 1469, the marriage of Isabella of Castile and Ferdinand of Aragon united the two most powerful Christian kingdoms in Iberia. Together, they launched a determined campaign against Granada in 1482. Using artillery, carefully planned sieges, and overwhelming resources, they steadily captured the kingdom's towns and fortresses. Year by year, Granada's territory shrank. After nearly 8 centuries of conflict, the final chapter of the Reconquista had begun. Facing starvation and without hope of reinforcements, Granada's last ruler, Muhammad XII, known as Boabdil, chose to surrender. On January 2, 1492, he handed the keys of Granada to Ferdinand and Isabella. As the banners of Castile and Aragon rose above the Alhambra, the Reconquista came to an end, 781 years after Tariq ibn Ziyad first crossed into Iberia in 711. That same year, Ferdinand and Isabella financed the voyage of Christopher Columbus, marking the beginning of Spain's overseas empire and a new era of global exploration. Yet victory came at a cost. Although the Treaty of Granada promised religious freedom, those guarantees were gradually withdrawn. Jews who refused to convert were expelled in 1492, and Muslims later faced forced conversions, exile, or expulsion. By the early 17th century, the descendants of Spain's Muslims, known as the Moriscos, had also been expelled. Even so, the legacy of Al-Andalus endured. Arabic influences remained in Spain's language, agriculture, architecture, and culture. Landmarks like the Alhambra and the Great Mosque of Córdoba still stand as reminders of a civilization that shaped medieval Europe. The Reconquista was not a single continuous war fought for 781 years. It was a centuries-long struggle marked by battles, alliances, peace, and political change. It transformed the Iberian Peninsula, laid the foundations of modern Spain, and left a legacy that continues to shape history today.